Hi, Satya. Thanks for reaching out regarding the meeting you represented me on yesterday. I really appreciate you standing in, but it sounded like there were some updates that you wanted to share.
Yes, and thank you for identifying me as your backup for the meeting. It was a great experience with such an important customer to Rico. However, I wanted to let you know that the meeting did not really go as well as expected.
Oh, I appreciate you bringing that up right away. Can you share some details about what happened?
We were on the call discussing readiness and product availability for implementation to meet the customer's deadline. And obviously, the customer contact was on the call. Jack said that they were in good shape to ship the product, and from the information I had, that did not look correct. I spoke up and said, "That's not going to happen. I just got an email that says we don't have all the product configured." I thought that I was helping the customer by making sure that we were not giving an incorrect update to them so close to rollout, but we found out internally after the fact that we were in fact fully configured and ready to go.
Okay, so there was obviously some confusion with that update. Do you think that could have been handled differently?
No, I really think that in the moment I handled it as best I could. The last thing we want is to give incorrect updates live on a call, and they only found out the email I received was not correct after the fact.
Well, I do understand where you're coming from. I'm sure from the customer side, it looks equally as bad for our team to be contradicting each other in front of them. This is not to say that your gut instinct was incorrect to make sure that we did not give them a bad update, but maybe the delivery could have been executed a little more effective way.
When you put it that way, I probably could have done it better than I did, especially with the fact that by the time I figured out my update was wrong, the customer had already escalated to Rico upper management. This is definitely a mess that is impacting the perception for Major Health, and I feel responsible for it.
Yeah, in the end, this is something that can happen with such a large customer and so many other moving parts. The biggest thing with a customer of this size is tact and how the delivery of information updates impacts their perception of how Rico does business.
That makes sense, and it's something that I do not have a lot of experience with myself. I know that you putting me on this gave me a great opportunity, and I wanted to make sure that you were hearing this from me as quickly as possible.
I appreciate you coming to me with this information, and this is something we want to approach quickly but thoroughly. Although this was a situation where speaking up like that with an incorrect update was not the right move, I should have done better to prepare you for the call in the context of the updates that we were giving. If I had done a better job at acclimating you to both the internal group running the call and going over the business updates instead of time, we may have been able to identify the correct update prior to the call. Do you have any other insight into how this could have been handled differently?
I definitely agree that the prep time ahead of the call would have been the right move, but it did not cross my mind when you had initially asked me to step in for you. I think I could have taken the initiative to review with you or reached out to the internal team members with the update instead of jumping into the conversation with the customer without notice.
I know too well it is difficult in the moment to realize the effect this kind of situation can have, but I'm glad we're on the same page. In the future, I think it is critical that we have an open line of communication internally before getting on a customer call like that.
Absolutely. And I did not mean to do this when you were giving me the chance to get on the call with such an important customer.
You've done more than enough to prove that you can handle those calls. And going forward, I still want to rely on you in these situations. The most important thing now is to learn from the mistake so that you can grow from the experience and not lose your confidence or passion to do well by your customers. But you have to keep in mind the one team mentality. And that also includes making sure we as a team are always on the same page in front of the customer.
You can count on me going forward, and I am committed to helping making this situation better. I can't say that this hasn't upset me because I am so concerned about the perception of the customer. I know I jumped in too quickly with information that contradicted what other team members said. But in the moment, I was most concerned with giving the customer incorrect information so close to rollout.
I understand that feeling, but the biggest asset to have there is composure. Even sending our members a message during the meeting with your update may have given us a chance to confirm in real time and save a little face in the fact your information was correct. A customer like Major Health will be very keen on a partner that has tact, even if the news delivered is not what they want to hear. The biggest thing here, though, is the reality that throughout this project, we have not always been on the same page internally. Do you have any ideas how to resolve this ongoing issue?
Well, earlier you mentioned having a touch point before the meeting yesterday would have helped prepare me better. I think that focusing on internal meetings prior to the customer meeting, even in the time slot right before getting on with the customer, would be a huge help and ensure that we are all on the same page.
I think that's a great idea, and something that is very specific to what this customer needs. How would we be able to measure the effectiveness of this?
If we were to combine that with only one person giving the updates, then it would show a more streamlined approach during the customer calls and lower the chance that we have to contradict one another. Also, anyone else on the call can give a more detailed explanation of the update if necessary. So that way we can ensure everyone has their chance to perform well in front of the major health contact.
All of this sounds like a well-constructed opportunity for us and easily achievable for our group. I also think that the other team members would appreciate it, because I know that there have been times we are not always on the same page going into the updates with Major Health. I know that upper management would agree that this is a relevant and time-sensitive plan to put into action to prove our commitment to Major Health's project going smoothly.
I think this is a great plan, and I really appreciate you taking my opinion into consideration like this. I know I messed up, but I'm glad that I can be part of the solution for this customer as well.
I believe that you can only learn from your mistakes and finding the way to resolve them. I think that we should both meet with John, my colleague who was helping run the call with Major Health. Getting his input and backing for this idea would really help to implement with the rest of the team. And it will give upper management confidence that the entire team is on board. I'll reach out to him now and set up the meeting. Any questions?
No, this sounds great. Looking forward to meeting with John and getting this plan in action. Thanks again for your support.
Good afternoon, John. I appreciate you agreeing to meet with us on such short notice. Obviously, the situation from the call with Major Health should be dealt with right away.
I agree. This is a huge issue and something we really don't need to deal with so close to rollout. I know that upper management is looking for an update from you and I for the next steps in writing this project, so we really need an answer from them ASAP.
You're right, and that's the main reason I called this meeting. Satya and I met this morning and discussed the issues from the call yesterday, and after reviewing her feedback, we spent some time talking through what those next steps could look like to improve the customer's experience and ensure that all of us are on the same page.
Considering the way the call went, I guess I am glad that you and Satya spent some time on this. It is one thing to have a disconnect with the updates, but a completely different thing to bring it up in front of the customer and it be incorrect.
I understand where you're coming from, and I had this conversation with Satya today. Everyone has made mistakes before, and most important thing at this point is that Satya has taken responsibility and is committed to turning this around to be a positive change, not only for Major Health, but for Ricoh going forward.
Hi, John. I understand the impact that my input had on the call yesterday and the disarray it caused. It is something that I have taken to heart and will continue to work on, but we think that we have a solution to make sure this does not happen again for anything related to Major Health.
I appreciate you saying that, Satya, and I'm looking forward to anything that can help with the situation.
Well, first and foremost, we both know that this project has had a few bumps on the road, and we are approaching the rollout with not everyone being on the same page. Whether it is a similar situation like yesterday's, where the manager does not adequately prepare their team member for the call, or multiple people having conflicting updates being shared on the customer call instead of by one person.
I would agree with everything you have said, and I realize that this does not look great to Major Health. However, it is hard to always have everyone on the same page, as we do not have a committed project manager on the team right now.
Yeah, based on what Satya and I discussed, we don't think that a project manager is needed. What would be extremely helpful for the customer calls is for the internal team to coordinate an update meeting before meeting with the customer and get all the updates shared on that. By the time we get to the customer call, we have had one individual share those updates on the call team members to share with more in-depth update if necessary. This way, the customer is getting all the updates from one individual in a cohesive and concise manner, and the subject matter expert on any update is there to give additional details to make sure Major Health is well informed.
If we can standardize the call schedule for right before the customer meeting, we'll be sure that any updates we have are sufficient at that moment, and no one will feel the need to contradict what is being updated. If someone cannot make the call and has to have a team member join in their stead, like yesterday, then the new person would get the full update prior to the call and will be brought into the loop effectively.
I think this sounds like a great idea, and honestly, it's unfortunate that no one had this idea before. This could have saved a lot of headaches. It seems that you two really took the initiative to turn yesterday's problem around, and I think this will be a much more effective approach to the remainder of this project. I would be happy to be the point person for the customer meeting going forward, and would appreciate any help you two can give me getting the rest of the team on board.
We are happy to help. This will only work if we are all one team with a customer-first attitude.
A perfect way to put it. Well, John, we better get working on notifying upper management of our plan. Afterwards, we can schedule out the internal meetings for the team time slot before the customer meeting each week. Satya, if you could take a look at everyone's schedules to make sure the time slot looks relatively open, and you could reconnect later with John and set it up.
Will do. Thank you again for all your help today. Looking forward to working with you on this, John.
Looking forward to putting this plan in place. Thank you again for your efforts turning this around so quickly.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Satya. Talk to you soon.